What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 65 of Clips and Dip. Hopefully your favorite Clippers podcast, or one of them. Top 3 would be great. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Will Updike.
Are we
and
kissing the top 3 on someone's podcast?
I hope so. And Adam Osland is here. We're going to be talking. The Clippers finished March 10-7. We got a pretty good playoff debate kind of brewing right now as those loom closer. If you missed our recap of yesterday's game, if you're only a YouTube person, which thank you for watching the videos, we do little recaps when Adam's on the radio on AM 570 that you can listen to anywhere you get podcasts. So that's if you want kind of our instant reaction to the games. I've mentioned y'all twice. I've been the only one speaking. How are you guys doing? Will, how are you doing on this sunny Los Angeles evening, excuse me?
I'm doing all right, man. It's Monday, but April Fools on everyone. Damn, we didn't set up something elaborate for this show. What the hell were we thinking?
What was the April Fools just there?
I was just saying it in general. I was wishing a happy April Fools to you and to Adam and to the listener as well.
Got it. Appreciate that. So Will's doing good. April Fools, maybe. Adam, how are you?
Dude, I just got back from Dune 2. It was awesome. April Fools, guys. Okay.
Wait, have you seen it yet?
No.
He refuses to watch it because he read some of the book and didn't think that the first movie was quote close enough to the book.
I read
a portion of the book.
I read part 1. And then part 1 disappointed me, even though he's my favorite new director.
Sounds like you're April fooling yourself, buddy. It's worth it. Movies should be long. They're escapism. We should be in the theater for up to 6 hours at a time. That's for a different podcast called Movie Clips and Dip, where we eat chips audibly on the pod and talk about our favorite movie clips. We are here to talk about the Clippers. The Clippers beat the Hornets in a weird game. I think they gave up the third most threes they've ever given up, and they won, which is cool. Will, how did you feel about that win over the Hornets? Were you whelmed? I felt like I was kind of whelmed by it, other than Paul George being absolutely.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's great to see Paul George. It's against a team that's really going through it right now, really struggling, really not good. But the shots still have to go down, and you love to see him getting into a rhythm and be able to build up that confidence. Overall, he's been looking a lot better over this stretch of games with like 2 outlier performance. He's had 20 plus point games over the stretch, and has overall been as efficient as we expect him to be. So yeah, that was the standout of it. Other than that, kind of an expected outcome. But I will say, I mean, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't with these games, right? Like, we're not going to give them a whole lot of credit for putting these games away. It is nice that they're on a win streak. It is nice that it's looking like they're trying to establish some sort of consistency and identity on court. But like a win against the Hornets obviously doesn't mean as much as a loss against the Hornets. So it's, they got the win, and I'm happy that this game doesn't have to mean more than it should. So yeah, that's what I'm putting into it.
That's fair. You seem tense about the team right now.
In what way?
I don't know. I feel like they've built some pretty good process. I'm chill as hell. Adam, do you have a high five? Do we have a high five from that game?
Yeah, we got a high five from that game because I did find some things impressive and also some things disappointing. We have to touch upon both, where we show off high five highlights from the high five when the Clippers were in Charlotte yesterday. You guys seeing what I'm seeing here?
Yes.
All right. So we can start things off. And this would be something that has gone under the radar a little bit. Our friend Justin Rousseau tweeted about it. We've talked about it at least once before. But Ivica Zubac, if you didn't know, is a bucket. Carl Tart, this highlights for you. So we got James Harden on the right wing here. Zoo just set the pick for him. A little pick and roll. They ran a lot of it, as did the Charlotte Hornets against the Clippers a ton. Ivica Zubac gets the basketball on the little pocket pass from James Harden, gets into the paint, and where in the paint exactly? Oh, from about 5 to 9 feet out, where Ivica Zubac is shooting 69% from the field. He leads the league in efficiency from 5 feet to 9 feet out by 8%. The next closest guy is Nikola Jokic. Doesn't mean he's better than Nikola Jokic.
Same frequency?
Does mean, likely not. Does mean that Ivica Zubac, though, probably should get a few more touches and just went for his season high of 24 points. What I like about this, though, is his defender in Richards actually does recover. And Ivica Zubac doesn't have an issue with that. He didn't need to get there for the dunk. He just finds a little floater to go. A little float goat from Big Zoo.
He looked confident, too. Other than the Paul George scoring, Zoo's confidence was really good to see in this game, I thought.
Will, nothing on the Big Zoo being underrated and not getting the basketball enough?
Again, it's expected.
Bro, Will
is not getting it.
Will wants to go 8-0 to close this damn season out. And if they don't, what are they even doing out there?
All right. Well,
I love it.
On our last 5-5, we showcased Terrence Mann, who knocked down a three-pointer early in the first quarter. It's about to happen again as they have Paul George trapped in the near side corner. Brandon Miller, who looks up to him, was guarding him at times. They threw a quick double. It was Big Zoo's man and Richards, so they think they have him trapped. He creates a little bit of separation here with his left elbow on Miller, who looks like he just hit the life alert. But Paul George is going to throw a cross-court pass, and it's going to T-Man. What did we see last time out? He was on the left wing, I believe. No, it was the right wing on the other side last time against Orlando, and he had Paul George next to him. And he looked him off, got the defender going his way, and then attempted to knock down the three-pointer. Now it's Kawhi Leonard to his right. Does the exact same thing. Looks at Kawhi, gets the defender off him, wide open shot. Terrence Mann sinks it. And I was just looking this up, but T-Man in first quarters, because of the propensity he has shown to take more shots early on in ball games, 19 of his 51 made threes since January 1st have come in the first quarter. The majority of his made threes are coming in the opening quarter.
Yeah, he should be taken out of the starting lineup. I think that's a pretty valid argument. The defense.
That's where I was going with it.
That's exactly where
the evidence is mounting and damning. Get him out of there. That's too many threes in the first.
Save some for the rest of the game. Has he thought about that?
Have you guys thought about Ivica Zubac getting the basketball a little bit more, as much as I have? Because
Not
I got
as much
more
as you have.
from Ivica Zubac here. Here's Big Zoo. I'm guessing this was a pick and roll a little bit earlier, but we don't get the full length of the play here in the highlight package. Here's James Harden with it. He's in the mid-post near side, backs up just to the left of the left elbow. Ivica Zubac has the mismatch as his man went to James Harden. It's Brandon Miller just hugging him. This should have been a foul, obviously. But James Harden just lobs it over the defense. Is he have his arm curled underneath Ivica Zubac's shoulder here? What is happening? Big Zoo comes up with the pass anyways. There's two men on him, but look at where Big Zoo's eyes goes. He sees a cutting Kawhi Leonard here. Ivica Zubac can be a hub on offense as Kawhi Leonard has the big throwdown off a nice feed from Big Zoo.
Big Zoo triple-double watch, playoffs? Can I bet? Who could bet on that? Zoo will get busted for betting on himself getting a triple-double. I'm going to get it. Like one person took this bet.
Now we move a little bit ahead. We've been watching myself and Dime Dropper from Locked On Pod now. We've been watching Kawhi Leonard and just have observing whether or not he still has the burst, whether or not Kawhi Leonard coming off the ACL, coming off the meniscus, still has that explosiveness so he can lead them in the fashion he did into the 2021 playoffs before he went down with that torn ACL. Well, here he is against Miles Bridges. The double comes as Kawhi is moving right to left here in transition, goes behind his back twice here, and then watch the blow by. He gone. Kawhi still got it, boys, and there's 8 games left in the regular season, and he's looking more spry. He and Paul George have looked so much better. Paul George over the last month, in March, in his 16 games played, guys, he ended up shooting 53% from the field and 47% from the outside. Kawhi, slowly but surely, might be turning a corner himself with three-pointers right now, which has kind of flown under the radar. He's been down from 3 over the last couple of months.
The Kawhi turning the corner was so great to see. I feel like it really popped out in this game because the they are a very young team, right? So they are quicker maybe than some other guys. But Kawhi was able to get around them. And again, another get to his spots game, which is we just want to see more of these as we get closer to the offs.
Now we have
that thing they talk about where like if you take a week off from training, you need like 2 to 3 weeks just to get back to the level that you were at. Maybe that's just what happened with the All-Star break with these.
They're old.
The
That makes
old guys.
sense.
They like. I mean, if you look at the timeline from when they kind of started turning it around, it does line up. I'll just say that.
True.
I've heard worse theories out there. Here's a worse play. This is
the last one. Are we ending on a sour note?
Yeah, we're going low.
I think you did that last time too, right?
Oh yeah, what the F?
No, last time was the Paul George one.
guy
It was the
hates
bonus
the Clippers.
play that ended up screwing them, even though it didn't end up hurting them with the Franz Wagner inbounds play.
Didn't know this was the Rod 5.
This is not the roddening. So there's some plays you can live with James Harden defensively. We know he's not a great defender. There's some stuff that is expected. There's also some stuff that's still expected of him in this position. And here he is completely losing his man in kind of humiliating fashion a little bit here. James Harden is better than this, but you got to have an eye on the ball, an eye on your man. And here he loses both of them as Bridges cuts behind him. At the last second, James Harden saw him. Watch this. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, he's gone. It's too late. It's over. Easy bucket there. There were a couple. It wasn't just James Harden in that game that had a defensive lapse. There was a play where Paul George and Norman Powell got crossed up. There was a play where Ivica Zubac and Terrence Mann got crossed up. They didn't know who was guarding who. But that is one of those plays that just can't happen. As much as he has limitations on the defensive end, he's better than that.
You mentioned, thank you for the high five. We need some kind of theme music for the high five. I feel like something kind of surf rocky. If anyone wants to send that in, go for it.
Yeah, volume on.
Yeah, we'll do volume on for the surf rock high five intro music. No problem. You mentioned guys getting crossed up in that game. I think this kind of takes us into, the Clippers finished March 10-7. We saw mostly good play towards the end of, the very end of this month, considering how tightly packed the games were. Guys getting crossed up, and Justin Russo brought this up on Twitter. Ty Lue kind of having to tell guys where to be was something that happened a little too much this month, but I think tailed off towards the end. So I'm hoping we don't see as much of that now that we're in April.
I mean, they only finished 26 defensively in the month of March, so
yeah,
it's an improvement over the last 2 months since the Grammy road trip. They're 28th defensively. Last 25 games where they're 13-12.
Yeah,
concerning.
So that is concerning. What's kind of your biggest concerns, I guess, as we head into the final stretch, the last 10%, 9.8% of the season?
I think for me, it's James Harden because he hasn't looked good. Shot, I think, about 40% from the field in March, 30% from the outside. Wasn't getting downhill as much. He missed 2 games. They gave him a little bit of rest on that road trip in Chicago and then in New Orleans. And there's been a little bit more spark with him getting downhill, I'd say. He still had 10 assists to 0 turnovers against the Charlotte Hornets. But remember, he had the splint on his hand from earlier in the day and played through it, jammed the finger, but he's already had the left shoulder injury going on. I just want to see him healthy and fresh come the playoffs. There's not much more important than that. When he is the system, you need James Harden at his best. I'm hoping they can give him more games off down the stretch here. It's not easy because you got to manage still winning and holding on to the 4 spot, but it's pretty important for James Harden to be at his best come that first round.
Yeah, I wonder if some of what we're seeing is sort of like in-game rest, which I hope. Him certainly not having to take on as much in these weeks coming up to the playoffs. As long as he's fully healthy, I guess I'm a little bit less worried about the slump is what I'm trying to say. I think if he can get a couple of games off, depending on where the standings are, I think that would be great, but I'm not necessarily concerned with the numbers and stuff right now. I'm just eager for him to be at, 100% when the playoffs start. That would definitely be what I'd be looking for. with him.
They can't win if he doesn't have that downhill attack because everything flows out of that.
Yeah.
It's getting two on the ball. It's getting into the paint. It's what Coach Lewis talked about all the time. That's part of the reason. That's one of the main reasons you get James Harden. It doesn't have to be him finishing all the time there, but he has to be aggressive enough to keep the defense off balance and to get the number advantage in their favor where they're going 4-on-3 all the time because he's got two on the ball.
What was it? 2 field goal attempts after the finger thing last game?
I think 3, made 1.
Made a 3. Yeah. Yeah, I think Harden is a fair thing to be monitoring because it's 8 games. There's one more back-to-back, maybe 2. I know Thursday, Friday is a back-to-back.
Yeah, 2 more, I think.
And then Phoenix. We go in Phoenix and then at home versus Phoenix. Will, what are you monitoring these final 8 games?
I talked about it last episode, but just how these small ball lineups are going to work, what machinations they're going to put together, and how to make those units effective. Because it's been a really mixed bag overall, kind of trending down. And obviously, some of that is due to limitations for what I would call regular season rotations versus playoff rotations. I don't think in a playoffs we'll see a small ball lineup without Kawhi Leonard in it. So stuff like that is fair enough. I can take with a grain of salt. But we're gonna have to figure out how to get the most out of the rotation that we have, which I know is every team's issue. But I would say the Clippers are in a unique spot where, honestly, is this playoff rotation deeper than 8 men deep? It's not particularly deep at the highest level, and I do think that Ty Lue is the perfect coach to try to find guys that are going to work together and try to get a little bit more out of guys that, maybe we didn't see as being that great during the regular season, but it's something to monitor for sure, because so far everyone not named Ivica Zubac in the center rotation has been shaky at best. And our bench is fairly depleted. So that's what I'm looking at.
The rotations is a really good call. We've seen a very high uptick in small ball, to close out March I would agree with kind of clicking down for the small ball. It's just kind of trading buckets. The defense is the biggest issue, and the boards, obviously.
Yeah, the rebounding has to be better. And then, look, the thing that's killed them is yes, defensively, those units they're not going to be very good. But they go through their own scoring droughts that, it's just sort of insurmountable at that point.
One of the lineups I'm interested in, they used it late against Philly, was 2-1-3 with James Harden, Norman Powell, and Amir Coffey, and they ended up winning that ball game. And Coffey was a big part of it, and he has come up clutch for the Clippers many times. And I think part of the reason I mentioned Terrence Mann and what he's doing in first quarter shooting-wise from 3, he's taking less, obviously, everywhere else. And I think that's part of the reason that Amir Coffey got the nod over him and has gotten the nod over him at times with closing out games. He's a more willing shooter from the outside. He's also a little bit bigger than Terrence Mann when you're going small like that. So that could be something to look at, especially if they end up in a series with the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, which we are going to talk about in a sec. Amir Coffey is going to be one of those guys who in the playoffs, he's going to get 2 field goal attempts maybe. He's got to hopefully make 1, which he has been doing, right? I think his stat line from the last game was what? It was 2 points, 1 of 2. He had 2 assists, a block. You add a couple more rebounds and maybe 2 more field goal attempts. That's exactly what they need from him in the playoffs, is an efficient, chunky stat line, just kind of the little things, and he hit shots to keep them in games, which has been cool to see. He hit shots maybe in the third when there's a run happening from the other team or something like that. They're always kind of timely buckets from Amir, which is you need.
And while the efficiency isn't at the superhuman levels that it was pre All-Star break,
January's,
he's still been solid. He's still been good there. So he's in no way afraid of the moment. And who knows, what if we get another Terrence repeat performance like we saw in the Utah series, and at some point we get an Amir Coffey game like that?
There's going to be a Norm one too. They have some guys who can do it.
Yeah, look, the rotation outside of the starters is somewhat shaky, not including Norman Powell. But if you get a role player game, I think that's enough to put you over the edge, unless two of the big three like dramatically crap the bed.
I think I said recently that
crap the bed. I have crapped the bed.
Dramatically so.
Dramaturgically? I
like you got to put a tent over the house and fumigate
it. Candlelit. They did it in candlelight.
I think I said something about Amir Coffey and his shooting percentages falling off after that really hot start when he got back into the rotation. But he has shot the last 2 months. It's only on 3 attempts per game, but 41% from 3 the last 2 months. So while he's not at over 50% like he was in January, he's been more than serviceable from the outside.
Before we get into this playoff debate that's happening, the Clippers have 8 more games left for the playoffs. They're playing the Kings tomorrow, who have no Malik Monk or no Kevin Huerter. The Nuggets on Thursday, which all 3 of us are going to be in the building for, I believe. And then the Jazz on Friday, Cavs at the Suns, and then home versus the Suns the very next day, and then versus the Jazz, and then they end their season with a brunch battle versus the Rockets. So there's really one game in here, and it's coming up pretty quickly, that is the biggest, or one of the biggest litmus tests, is that game against the Nuggets, to see if they actually can put together this good process. And then that back-to-back against Phoenix, which could decide the Pacific Division title, depending how things go. I know Adam's got his eye on those.
I'm protesting those games.
What are you pegging their record at over this 8-game stretch? What do you want to see? What do you think it's going to be? It's not easy. It's not hard. It's tough.
Me or Will? I want 5-3.
Oh, I think 5-3 is doable.
Because I think that'll hold on to the 4 seed if they go 5-3. They'll keep them right there.
Top of the division, yeah, too.
Yeah.
So where do you see the losses? We split the Suns. I think that's happening no matter what. That's a travel back-to-back. I could live the Suns.
I could live with splitting the Suns, loss to the Cavs, and then maybe an end of the season loss because we don't play everybody.
Because the Rockets game is at 12:30. Yeah. So okay, yeah, I would love that.
So yeah, we lose one of the 2 to the Suns, we lose to the Cavs, and then we throw a game if we're safe enough at the 4 seed at the end.
So you like them on Thursday versus the Nugs,
and tomorrow.
Yeah,
I like them tomorrow for sure.
Well, yeah, that would kind of undo this 3-game win streak if they were to lose to a shorthanded Kings.
Kings are desperate. I think that's a tough game.
Good.
It's not like they're missing Sabonis and Fox.
Yeah, no, we're not saying it's an easy game, but I like them tomorrow. I'm encouraged by how
they would undo the 3-game winning streak if they lost to Sabonis and Fox in Sacramento.
Yeah, they've beat crap teams. It's only encouraging if they continue the good habits and the good work. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean that much.
Orlando is one of the better wins of the season.
Orlando for sure. Yeah, I said a couple of crappy teams. That doesn't mean all of them.
I heard crap teams. All right.
We're arguing semantics about crap. We're talking about dramatic craps of the bed. Crapping of the bed. 5-3. Adam, what do you see for the record?
5-3.
5-3 straight up.
My call. Now, who they lose to?
Yeah, sorry.
I think they.
You think Kings
probably
tomorrow?
Split the next 2? I don't know which one they win or lose. I just feel like they could look ahead to Denver also because they're coming up on Thursday, and that makes the Sacramento game tougher. Cleveland.
That's not the case, though. They should be focused for every game.
They should. Yeah, they're 13-12.
At this point,
so that'd be nice. I'm just going off of how they've been playing overall. Cleveland right now, I'm wondering how much they have to play for in the East and how much maneuvering that they can do. Obviously, it's a team that they don't match up well against, but Cleveland's been really beat up and down. They lost to them. That was the one team they lost to on the Grammy road trip.
Yeah,
was the Cavaliers. And Coach Lue just straight up said, yeah, we don't match up well against them. They're in the 3 seed, but they're only up of the 4 seed held by the New York Knicks by a half game. So things are tight right there. They need to win. They're unlikely to be a top 2 seed, but they, like the Clippers, they're trying to hold on to the 3rd in the East. Clippers trying to hold on to the 4th spot. So that's going to be a really tough game. Man, those 2 in Phoenix, as the Suns are just trying to, the 2 against Phoenix, sorry, as the Suns are just trying to get out of the play-in, which is seeming less likely. But yeah, I don't know. I think 5-3. I'm going 5-3. Yeah. I'm going 5-3. I don't know where somebody are going to land, losses and wins, but I think it's very likely.
I think we're all consensus 5-3. Unless they lose tomorrow, in which case Will wants to see 7-1 to redeem for whatever the hell happens.
Well, isn't it? Yeah, it's 6-1 at that point, though, isn't it?
6-1. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, 7-1 over the whole 8. All right, coming up, we're talking this emerging debate amongst Clippers fans of who the team should prefer to play between the Mavs or the Pels, because that's very much a possibility. There's some ads coming up if you're listening to us. Thank you for listening, by the way, to all of our podcasts. If you're watching, we're still going to be here. We got ads and then Mavs or Pels talk coming up in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back into Clips and Dip. So now we're talking the playoff debate. As things are kind of tightening up here during the last stretch of the season, it's looking like the 2 most likely outcomes for the Clippers are either the Dallas Mavericks or the New Orleans Pelicans. One team we have a pretty storied and long history against in the playoffs. The other one we have a pretty storied and long history against in the regular season. And they have bounced us from playoff contention before too. So, yeah, where are you guys at on this? Where do you want to start?
Well, I know that Adam has been doing the good work of
it?
What? Let me finish.
No, Will's right.
Okay. Because this isn't right. This isn't the same quote unquote Mavs team we've played 2 times before. They've added Kyrie Irving. It is a different beast of a Mavs team, I will say, compared to what we've seen. And they're playing incredibly well right now. I don't know. Between these 2 teams, I can't tell you which one. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see Will's fantastic name bits. I don't know who I want them to play. I guess I prefer the Pelicans because mentally it's new. And I'm not going to have a horrific time, reliving past series against this team like we would against the Mavs or something like that, which is a completely selfish reason. I understand there's no real logic with that reason. But I think Adam might help back me up with some statistical reasons why we should not maybe want to play this Mavs team.
Well, after the Dallas Mavericks last night beat the Rockets, the first team to beat them since the Clippers did 3 weeks ago, and then they won 11 straight ball games and got themselves into a position where they can be in the play-in. It became official last night that currently they're matched up against Dallas in the 4-5. Dallas is leading their division now. And so I did a little bit of a deep dive. First, I put out the tweet with the screenshot of the standings and just using the oh no face emoji face, the grit your teeth, something bad is coming this way emoji face. I don't know what they call it.
I only use happy emojis.
Yeah, it's a scary one. And some people it resonated with because Dallas and PTSD and all that. Others said right away, we want the Mavericks, dude. And I was like, LOL. Okay, dude. Like there was some, consensus that everybody in Clipper Nation wants the Dallas Mavericks. And how do you not know, you casual, that the Mavericks are obviously the better matchup for the Clippers than the New Orleans Pelicans would be? And I'm pretty sure that position is completely hinging on the fact that on the season, Dallas is bottom 10 defensively. So they have this glaring flaw, unlike the Pelicans, who are much more balanced and have had a top 5 net rating for most of the year. So then I actually went into the numbers and said, well, Dallas made a lot of changes at the trade deadline. I wonder where they've been at recently defensively.
Yeah.
So I went back to February, So 24 game sample size. And Dallas is now top 10 defensively over that span. They are 8th while having the second best offense. So when we talked about good moves at the trade deadline and said the New York Knicks made some good moves and the Dallas Mavericks made some good moves, those moves have worked with the athletic big men they have brought in. As much as we have mocked one of them and people saying he should be on the Clippers, Daniel Radcliffe. Wait, Harry Potter?
Wait,
Who am I thinking of? The backup from Gafford.
Daniel Radcliffe. I mean, he should be on the Clips. I wouldn't mind a Wizard. That'd be. I don't know if there's rules.
Swiss Army man, Swiss Army knife for this team.
He's a triple threat.
Multiple uses.
He can hoop.
But then I thought, okay, what about clutch rating? I knew where the Pelicans were at there because the Clippers just played them recently. And they beat the Clippers in the clutch, even though they only scored like 7 points in the final 5 minutes, and the Clippers only had 5. Well, the Pelicans are 28th in net rating in the clutch. The Mavericks are 3rd, which is what you would expect because they have Luka Doncic and they have Kyrie Irving. But if your entire argument is attached to, well, Dallas isn't a good defensive team and they can't stop the Clippers, while the Clippers, meanwhile, people were telling me that, they can play them straight up. They have Kawhi. They have Paul George. Put them on Luka, put them on Kyrie Irving, and you can play those guys straight up, right? Because that's how the NBA works. Even though we've seen multiple series against Dallas over the last 4 seasons where you try to guard guys straight up, and this is what happens. I found an old tweet from 2021 from myself making this argument of how folly it is to believe you can play straight up against the Dallas Mavericks with the best mismatch hunter in the game in Luka Doncic. Because all the hopeless casuals on TV back then when the Clippers were down 2-0 in that 7-game series in 2021 were saying, why don't they just put Kawhi and Paul George on Luka? Well, I don't know, guys, because they set screens left and right, because it's the modern NBA and it's not nearly that simple. Because while you're fighting through a screen, you're giving a guy an opportunity to take a wide open 3-pointer. That's why you have to switch sometimes, because if you try to fight through it and you give up space to a shooter like Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving now, they're going to drain a wide open jumper on you. So that is also a fallacy and a false narrative going on in this series. My only point would be this. I'm fine with you wanting the Pelicans or wanting the Dallas Mavericks.
Sure.
I just believe if you think it's obvious or a no-brainer that they should want Dallas over the Pelicans, you haven't been paying attention recently to how the Dallas Mavericks have been playing. And the fact that, I don't know, the Clippers still had to take them to 7 in 2021 to beat them. It's a different Clippers team. They can't probably play as well small. As Will talked about earlier with some of those lineups, they don't have Batum. They don't have Marcus Morris anymore. And Ivica Zubac has been food for Luka Doncic whenever he matches up against him, which he's always hunting for that switch. I was also told by the same person that, I'm sure Ivica Zubac will play a lot in that series. I don't know, man. Luka Doncic is going to be trying to find him every time down. So I see Dallas and the Pelicans as a coin flip. Yeah. I think it's really close. I see it being problematic with either team. There's just this false confidence about the Dallas Mavericks and how the Clippers match up so well against them. And who are they going to guard Kawhi and Paul George with? Well, I don't know. But recently, they've gotten wins over Denver, OKC. They just beat Sacramento twice. They just beat a team that had won 11 straight games. They just beat Phoenix. That's nothing new. Luka always beats Phoenix. But they've had a top 10 defense for 2 months. So why are we acting like the Dallas Mavericks are the same old Dallas Mavericks and all you have to do is score with them? And like they aren't going to be able to slow you down at all.
I agree. Your argument is very valid. Will, the other crazy thing is the Clippers, even if they play well, might end up still the 5 seed, right? Like there still is room for the Clippers to maybe slip, and then all of a sudden we're on the road against Dallas.
Yeah.
Which was like a damn nightmare. Which of these teams are you preferring, I guess, the coin flip to fall on?
I don't know.
It's an incredibly
correct answer.
Difficult decision. Like
that's the correct answer.
It's like both just present really interesting things. I mean, the Mavs are scary too because the playoff experience. Like both of these guys have been deep in the playoffs. In Kyrie and Luka, I generally like the way that we line up against guard heavy teams, right? Just because of in most years the size and everything that we have. But as everybody gets a little bit older, and with Harden out there, I don't know that we're going to be able to stop them as well. And I think it just depends if that's the matchup that you're hoping for. Tell me which one you think is more real. Dallas, who has been an offensive, has been a historically good offense since their time together. But what do you believe in more? Their improved defense for the last 2 weeks, or the Clippers' bottom 3 defense for the past, month and a half? Which one of those is more real? Because I think that would say who will win the series. And obviously things are different than the regular season. It's not, we don't just compare stats and that's what happens. But I think that it's something to consider. Like if this is real for this Dallas team, they somehow got rid of Grant Williams and got their and made their defense better. That's a big issue, man. Like that's huge.
And this is what the issue with the flip the switch strategy kind of BS is, right? Because like we're a bottom 10 defense, and it's like, so yeah, like they're gonna flip a switch and be a top 3 defense right off the bat once this thing starts. Like, no, we got to see some real, like we have to see a top 10 defense over these next 8 games to really think that they would have not comfortable, but as comfortable as you be shot at stopping the Mavs, right? Like, because I love your point with like, what do you believe in more? Like, do you believe that the Clippers can all of a sudden turn on this defensive switch? Because one guy can, but that's still asking for kind of a lot.
I believe in Daniel Radcliffe.
Get him out there.
They bring in PJ Washington. They have this rookie in Derek Lively. They have Gafford now. They have a bunch of athletic. None of them are huge, but they're all athletes that you have to account for.
Yeah.
In the front court. Like, it seems like it would be hell. You already take into account they have Luka Doncic, who I think is one of the greatest players of all time already. I have seen enough. I'm fine if you want to put him as a top 75 player now. Luka is that good. Kyrie Irving was a top 75 player ever. People are pointing and say, well, Kyrie Irving has had some down playoff years recently. It's like, you really want to bet it on that continuing with Kyrie Irving, who's also been one of the most clutch players ever, who just hit that left-handed push shot on Nikola Jokic from 15 feet out. They have all this
still
momentum.
Firmly in his prime.
Right.
He's catching lobs from Luka.
Yeah.
You really want to test that. I get that they don't have much to guard Kawhi and Paul George, but with all the work they're going to be doing guarding on the other end, that is their best defense, really, the Dallas Mavericks. That is what will slow them down on the offensive end. And again, you can't just say stick Kawhi on Luka and we're good. He'll cancel him out. He'll take him out. It's been tried, guys. He'll be calling out every single switch until he gets the matchup that he wants.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to either of these scenarios. But they get time off. That's good, right? They get time off starting early because their last game is at 12:30. So they might get more rest than other teams.
And it's not to say that the Pelicans doesn't feel like hell too with Zion Williamson. And how do you stop him down?
He's starting on-court work or something like that, so he should be back fairly soon.
They have Herb Jones. They have Jose Alvarado to guard guys.
Jones is crazy.
Yeah, they're a deeper team than the Clippers, which, again, playoff rotations are shorter, but still, I think having better guys is still always going to be to your benefit.
I like that theory. That's as good as he sucks stardom. Which is the greatest theory of this show. We got a little bit. So I kind of want to go back to what Will talked about with rotations wise in the first segment when he talked about that's what he's looking for over these next 8 games, which I totally am going to be looking for that too. The backup center, as we've gotten further into these discussions about the Pels and the Mavericks, that might be my second biggest area of concern for this Clippers in terms of we still kind of have question marks at what we're throwing out there in the playoffs for non-Zoom minutes wise, in terms of effectiveness too. We just haven't we don't really know what we're getting from either of the actual backup centers, kind of, and the small ball lineup still needs work. So we'll see it more of these next 8 games, but that's, I think, what I'm the second most worried about.
I think they'll need a lot of what we saw last year with Russell Westbrook and his defense in that series against the Phoenix Suns, where he was setting a tone at times, going up against his former teammate Kevin Durant. Like, they need him to do some of the little scrappy, dirty things that guys like Marcus Morris used to do for this team in the playoffs and Nick Batum. I'm not saying that's an easy ask. I'm not saying that he is in the mold of those guys. I'm saying that is the situation they're in. They need some of that from him. They need some of that from Amir Coffey. Norman Powell is not going to give you that. He's going to give you better defense than he has in the regular season. He'll be better there. But Russell Westbrook has the ability to guard a lot of different guys. And that's why they've tried him at times at the 5.
Him at the 5 with 4 shooters is what hopefully we see in the playoffs, because that's him playing that cog role, right, that we saw earlier in the year. Yeah, well, what are your thoughts? I know it's kind of a negative take to end on. How are you feeling about the backup center rotation?
I mean, I think there's ways to work around it. It's just the margins get slimmer and slimmer, even with like the great top tier talent that we have. So it just changes. It just changes like how you can execute things. Like, you just have to be so much more on point in everything. And I think that's like why the Mavs thing. I like that Adam brought up like Ivica Zubac and how that matchup has historically worked out. Like, that's asking a lot. Like, if 20% of your starting rotation isn't going to be getting like their normal minutes, that's asking a lot of whatever other rotations you can cobble together, with not a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
All Dallas is going to do is say, you either have to fight through these screens where we're trying to get Ivica Zubac into a switch onto Luka Doncic, where he's going to get an open look, or Zoo's going to have to defend him out on the perimeter, which then negates the point of having him as one of your best defenders and your defensive anchor at the rim. It's going to be a crazy chess match that I don't need to see for a third time. Now, do I think they can beat the Pelicans and the Dallas Mavericks? Of course.
Sure.
I'm just saying, what's the least pull your hair out opponent?
Yeah. Who can we?
And I think it's really close. And everybody, or a lot of people universally, were initially saying, are you kidding? We own Dallas. It's like, do they own this Dallas Mavericks team? I don't think so.
It's different. I wish we saw them one more time in the regular season. That would be.
Well, the good news is they have the tiebreaker, Chuck.
There's
less of a chance of Dallas catching the Clippers for 4.
That is true. That's the one team we have the tiebreaker for this season. That about wraps it up for Clips and Dip. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We're doing a double dip after the game tomorrow. Adam, what is the double dip?
That's for one of these guys, and I think it's going to be Big Will tomorrow. Come on with me post-game on the official Clippers post-game show, Clippers Talk, where we take your phone calls. Sometimes they're angry. Sometimes they're happy and joyful, like last night after Paul George had 41. But we have guests on too, and one of these guys always comes on with me post-game. And then we snip that out, we put it and upload it onto the Clips and Dip page as well, that segment we do on Clippers Talk. Yes, so we call it Clips and Double Dip, yeah.
It's very fun. We're going to do an episode on Wednesday, most likely, and then there's going to be a YouTube live from the press box after the Nuggets game on Thursday. We need the reviews. Will, where can people review this podcast?
You can review this podcast over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I think Spotify will even let you put in multiple reviews. So, maybe sometimes we're a 5-star to you. Maybe sometimes we're a 4.5. Maybe then you're feeling back to a 5. Who knows? Anyways, you can listen to this show wherever you listen to your podcast. But if you want the whole experience, you should check us out over on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. And you can comment there. You can you can do whatever you want. But however you listen, we appreciate it.
We do. And Adam, do you have one quick positive thing before we get out of here?
The Clippers can't really control who they play in the first round, most likely. So all this will be for naught. We just got to take it. It feels like a toss up right now. So they can't control it. I guess this is us just hemming and hawing over nothing that we can actually affect. But I still think it's an interesting debate. But it is a debate. It is a debate. It's not just we can't see the Pelicans because they beat us so many times in the regular season. We've beaten the Dallas Mavericks when they were a different configuration a couple of years ago. It's different now.
It is different.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I'm scared of both.
He's scared of
deeply.
Bit of a nihilist take to close out the end of the pod, but we appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next time. Let's go Clips.